Now, I accept that my style of non-metallic metal it's not what everyone's looking for from an NMM. It's kind of comic booky, it's only semi-based on realism, but do you know what? I like it. And because I like it, and because the method for painting it is so no-nonsense, it's actually been always a real pleasure for me to paint NMM. It's never been something that I've dreaded or something that I've ever been particularly worried about. So if you're someone who's looking for a method for painting non-metallic metal that's not too fussy, that's not too hard to get into, this might be one for you. So why don't you come with me now and I'll take you through just a few small, easy to understand points to get you producing some lovely NMM without popping a temple vein. I honestly can't go a week, it seems, without seeing a social media post somewhere of someone crying woe because they cannot figure out how to place highlights in such a way as to make something read as metallic. But what if I told you the secret is to just stop thinking about it? Honestly, consistency is way more important to the look than specifics when it comes to highlight placement. So just pick a direction, usually up, and make sure that you're highlighting everything in the same direction so that the light always looks like it's coming from the same place. You'll come across little areas, especially if you paint things like trim or sword blades, where it doesn't make sense to do that. You're not just going to paint the top of a sword entirely white, for example. But in those cases, you just sort of switch to kind of an alternating method of just going sort of dark light, dark light, dark light. And that also just works really, really simply and straightforwardly. Now, I think at this point in my YouTube career, regular viewers of the channel should know that I don't have any particular love for edge highlighting. It's fussy, it's difficult, it takes a long time, it doesn't look very realistic, and to be honest, it's just not really to my taste. However, when we paint non-metallic metal, we're trying to sell the idea that the shape is catching light, and filling it with as many edge highlights as you can bear to is actually a really, really good way to achieve this. You'll generally find that at all levels of non-metallic metal, whether it be something beginner friendly like this or something very advanced, you're always going to see loads of edge highlights, and that is just because those little bright edges really help define shapes and help make it look like the surface is reflecting. Don't forget to check your light intensity here though. Remember that if you're highlighting an area that's in shadow, chances are you're probably not using your brightest highlight colour to highlight it with. Probably something more around the mid-tone, so just bear that in mind as you go. Okay, this is the big one, which is actually fine, because it's the one that doesn't really ask you to actually do anything. You just have to keep it in mind. Contrast is a state of mind, man. You're going to want to employ a range of colours that goes from probably darker than you actually think, all the way up to near white, maybe even actual white, and you're going to want to use every single one of them in pretty much every area that you possibly can. Honestly, one of the biggest difficulties I have with NMM personally can be representing the entire range of contrast, all of the colours that make up the metal workup, in some of the teensy-tiny areas that we have on miniatures. Is tiny a word? Is tiny a word? It's probably not a word. Tiny. It's this relationship between light and dark, though, that tells the eye that this is not just a flat piece of painted plastic, but is actually a reactive, reflective piece of metallic material. So it really is the thing to concentrate on. It's the one that I honestly think matters the most. And if you really want to play with contrast, a cool thing that you can do is kind of glaze off tones into the mid-tones of your workups in order to kind of trick the eye and make it look like maybe there's some sympathetic reflection coming from a nearby coloured surface, or that there's maybe a coloured light source impacting with the metal. When I do this, to be honest, I keep it pretty simple. I usually just sort of put pinks or purples into my golds, or browns or blues into my silvers, because those are colours that work very easily and they just kind of make things look natural. That said, there's no reason why essentially any colour can't work in any situation. I've certainly seen a lot of people putting like greens or blues into gold, stuff like that. So I think the secret there, if that's something that you want to try out, is to just play, have fun. At the end of the day, if you ruin a bunch of work that you've spent ages on, that's just an excuse to go and have fun learning how to do it again. So don't worry about it. So, yeah, that's it. 3 tips. Not some expansive dissertation full of language and theory, and that really is actually the crux of the issue, is painting is a very complicated thing, and we often have a habit of communicating about it in very complicated ways. Makes kind of some ideas, some skills that relate to painting feel a bit impenetrable, and that's something that I'm really on a bit of a mission to counteract. I've even seen mini painting teachers, for example, that make up their own custom invented language to apply to the techniques and things that they're teaching, and stuff like that I think really creates a huge barrier to entry to some things that I want to kind of try and break down. So I hope that this video has helped achieve some of that. I hope that you liked it. If you've watched this and you're gonna have a go at some NMM, let me know. Just enjoy it, concentrate on that contrast, those 3 simple tips, and have a good time with it. You got this, you can do it. It's absolutely fine, trust me. So with all that said, I really hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. You can also comment and tell me what you thought of it. That's always great. I love that engagement thing. If you enjoy the content and want to see it regularly, you can subscribe to the channel. You can enable notifications. That's going to allow you to stay up to date on what I'm doing. And if you're, for some reason, just absolutely in love with the content and you actually want to support its creation financially, you can do that through Patreon, which is linked in the description below. So with all that said, I shall get out of here now and stop rabbiting in your ears. We're going to roll those end credits, but thank you for watching, everyone, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.